welcome to the second AutomationML TechTalk. Today about a maybe quite surprising topic because in AutomationML we are talking about standardization, standardized formats, standardized data exchange, and today we will show how you can use the standard without without notifying anyone, just for yourself, just like it is, just to use it in your own tools, because this is also a possibility to use it. My name is Miriam Schleipen. I'm Chief Research Officer at EKS InTec, involved in the AutomationML standardization since the beginning in 2006. And I'll hand over to my colleague Amadeus Kunke.
Yes, hello. My name is said Amadeus Kunke. I'm the product manager of AF Scout, one of our tools in the AF suite. And yeah, today we want to show you some things we accomplished with AML. But first of all, before we start with the real topic, I would like to have a short introduction what we are doing at EKS. So as you can see, we in the header you see it's tools for the virtual plant coming from virtual commissioning, which is our main business. Let's say we are providing all tools you might need to create your virtual plant, and we also describe the life cycle of a plant like you see here in an infinity loop. So coming from planning, engineering, and simulation, always the line right now is going some of these in the virtual commissioning, running up here, coming then to the commissioning itself, where you've been then on site, on the line. Then there's some ramp up phase to get everything in shape and in perfect cycle time. Then there's the time of plant operation, where we do the real thing, where the plant is doing its thing. And then coming back to process optimization and process planning again for maybe another type integration and stuff like this. And this is running until, not infinity, but until the line is not needed anymore. So at some point here in the plant operation, it got a cut, and then it's done. And you see these colored themes on site here are marking the big things we are doing at EKS. So we have one part is which really doing the engineering, but we on our side currently doing most of the time on the other side. So we are on process optimization, virtual commissioning, big topic on our side, doing analysis topics like interlock check, monitoring, and also providing training for this plants in virtual models. So that's basically what we all can do. So we are nearly everywhere on the cycle. And today we want to focus on this process optimization that we want to present to you. There's also a link to the tool we are using here, just for if you have interested in. And for process optimization, right now we come into the live demo. I will switch to the tool itself right now. And first of all, I would like to introduce you to the topic we had. So as you can see, that's a small line from the body in white cell. Just one station out of it, a little bit smaller than all the things around, without a fence, without the controllers for the robots and stuff like this, but the main things are here. And we had let's say like some kind of pilot project where a customer came to us and said, yeah, we have here a line which is already cycle time optimized, really running in shape, but we want to optimize it in concern of energy. And yeah, that's a body in white part here. So it's taking some parts out of these stages, giving the handing over this part in the air to this robot here. It's taking the one, putting it down in a geo fixture, and then 5 robots doing some operation on this thing. So with welding guns, clinching guns, and also this robot is doing something. And this is a conveyor line where all the bodies running through. And the idea was right now, can you analyze it for energy to optimize anything on energy? And yeah, we took this opportunity to say, yeah, let's do it. And for this, we used our tool Scout. which is has different parts, as you see on the top, doing different things, like I said, doing interlock check. And the main point we are focusing right now is also the process analysis. And we started out to say what can be done to search for energy optimizations, as this line is already optimized. So we are not speaking about a line which has lots of potential concerning the process itself. So the process has to be kept like it is, but what are the things we can look at? And the idea was every line has, at least these lines have, when robots are working so tight together, have some interlocks in between. So always one robot is doing, he's requesting an interlock, and the other robots are waiting until they can go inside and doing their thing. And these interlocks we had a look on. And so we started out first doing some basic things. So Scout itself is a tool where you can generate your own process analysis, let's say. So we have this table on the side where you can create some structures like you want to. You can name them like you want to, and then these two things. So we can create structures and actors. And these actors, maybe I open this for example, where we can say, okay, I have a lot of signals what I can use. So we made a recording of the cell, a complete signal recording, which means we recorded all the in and outputs of this line for all robots, for all PLC, and had also signal lists for them. And with this, you see we have a lot of signals here, what we can use. And with Scout, we can take these signals and combine them in some logic or order. So we can take them single, but if you have a look at this one here, you can also make some logical expressions. And with this logical expressions of signals, these define our processes. So we started out having a look at first just what the robot is doing. So we started out with some, where's the robot stopped, where's the robot active. So we have some indications of these here. We have been basically on saying, yeah, okay, where's our home position? Where's the robot really waiting for anything? And in the second step, we created some more indicators for the program itself. So where the HP, the main program is active. And the main important thing is where he's doing his work. So you see here, it's the clinching robot doing some clinching here in 2 steps, and the interlocks in between. And as we are looking at this one, you see, I showed this already, we have some expression to get all the positions where the robot is waiting for because of interlocks. And these we could use to say, okay, when a robot is running into an interlock, so he's waiting for its process to start, we can reduce the speed before this. So because he has really to wait in the optimized process already to go on with this one, so we can reduce the time, or we can reduce the speed before the robot is running to this interlock, so it's maybe directly fluently. He's not waiting that long. And for example, if you look at this robot here, the waiting times here are quite small, very, very small things. So we have here a bigger one, which is, this is 2.85 seconds, but as you see, the robot is still stopped. So that's nothing we can look at. And the other ones are really, really optimized. So he's just waiting for some milliseconds where he can go on. So the robot is working most of the time by its own. And we also have possibilities in the tool that we automatic generate things out of this robot from the signals we get. And if you look at here for the program call sequence, we can also see where the robot is jumping through its data. And then we can have a look there and see where the robot is currently in its program. So we have been through this whole, we did this for every robot. And for example, for this robot, there's nothing really to see because these interlocks we're searching for are very small, nothing to optimize. But if we look at the different robot, let's, for example, say the robot 30 LB400, there it looks already different. So the robot has here 2 big waiting topics. You see the first one is already still in the stop phase, so there's nothing movement before. But here we have some, And if we look at here at the details for this robot and the program call sequence, we see here's a movement in between. So he's working through the different points here, small, and then he has to wait. And he has to wait long. So that's 8.454 seconds, excuse me. And these seconds he has to wait always. You see that's appearing over each individual cycle. So you did see different cycles of the robot here, and always there we have these waiting time. And therefore we could say, okay, that's something we can optimize. So we can say this movement in between, which is here quite short, and most of the time they are programmed like take the most speed as you have and move there. We can make this really small. So we take a little bit off from the energy, total energy consumption, which is always or most of the time very high because they're going always max speed. So we can optimize this here. And this was a great thing, what we thought, what we can use, and we've been even further. And maybe I show you one more example here. That's the robot 34 RB100. That's this robot on the 7th axis here. I show this once again. So he's doing a lot of handling stuff before, then doing a little bit gluing and giving the part over to this robot here. And looking at this robot, we found, I opened the same thing, so you see where the robot is stopped, you see where the robot is active, where it's moving. You also see the program in between, so you see here that's this, it's a main program. He's doing here the pick operation here. That's picking, then he's doing the gluing, and then he's doing a transfer to the robot 200. And you see there, that's quite completely always there's no gap in between. Here are also some interlocks. But here's a big gap between these two. So he's always waiting here some dedicated time before he can hand over this part to the robot. And we found that this gap is always there, at least for the type 1. And for this, we made then some assumption. Okay, in this case, let's focus on the next cycles here. We have always these optimization time, always this gap. So speaking about 12.65 seconds. And in this case, we could reduce the speed, not of the gluing, because this would mean quality change, but for the handling before, when he's taking the part out of these big things, he could do this very smooth. So without any big speed, we could take maybe up to 12 seconds more on doing this part. And this was a great thing, what we found also when he started again, when he's driving back from taking the part to the other robot and driving back, he has some waiting time in between in his home position, and also this can be used a little bit more, so he gets an earlier start from PLC, and he can really smooth out this movement here, which is also leading then to less energy consumption as the acceleration is not that high, the speed is not that high. Yeah, that would mean some energy optimization. And we showed this to the customer and he said, yeah, that's really great. And then we came to the point where we said, okay, we have right now the result. What to do with it? We have it inside here of our tool, that's fine. But is there any possibility how we can transfer this information? So the whole, let's say the whole gun chart, I can also expand this for all, but just focusing on this one. How can we transfer this maybe outside? And that's where right now my colleague Miriam is taking over again to say how to export and import the data again to make it available for external systems or external tools.
Thank you, Amadeus, and I will also take over the screen because now we are at the point we are in an industrial context. We have information, and we have information which is not completely inside a tool, but which is worth to share. For example, to data analysts, to people who are aware of the process, who can really take care about this information which was analyzed and who are able to process it. And for sure, you can process it visually, but it would be better to have this data, this information, which was already, I would say, improved, and to share it also with other tools. And that's the point where AutomationML comes into the game. Because for sure, we have our product manager, and let's call him Amadeus. And he's now thinking about how to export and maybe process data and re-import it again to the tool. And that's not the only tool where you have this challenge in industry, but you have a lot of tools during engineering, during analysis tasks, during optimization tasks, which deal on the one hand with the plant, on the other hand with the structure of the plant, with the functionality of the plant, with the process of the plant, which deal with the products inside the plant. So there is a lot of information, structured information, which is already there, but which could be also reused in other life cycle phases. And as we said, Amadeus showed it. It's really, how to say, really specific information. For example, this Gantt chart, these things. So the question in the beginning was how to do it. And for sure, our product manager first goes to his development team and asks, on the one hand, his software developers, let's call him Ben, then his software architects, let's call him Bernhard, and also the colleagues from research and standardization, if there is some good solution to realize that, to export a lot of data, a lot of specific data for plants, and to be also able to import it. And as for sure, we are in AutomationML context, for example, for the 3D information, which you already seen, Koyada and also AutomationML structure from plant topology information side can be used already. So this is there. You have white papers for that. You have for other parts of the plant information, also process and product information. You have things like best practice recommendations on how to use AutomationML. You have application recommendations for different specific parts. Like, for example, if you want to exchange the information from an electrical planning to a PLC programming tool. So there is already a lot of things of domain-specific knowledge, which is defined in AutomationML, but there are also parts like, for example, our process description, the analysis, different process steps, where you do not have really, how to say, a standardized solution, but you have the possibility to the mechanisms in the standards, as I would call it meta modeling possibilities. But let's see how it happened, because our product manager asked all the people there, which we see. And first of all, for sure, he interacts with his developers. And if you ask developers, we need an export interface or an import interface, for sure they have an idea. It just said, let's do it. I have an idea. I'll do it directly. No worries. In a proprietary format, really efficient. I can export, import that. It needs quite some time, but we are able to do it. Okay, but Amadeus is not that unclever. He still asks our software architect. Okay, maybe we need that information somewhere else. Let's create a JSON, where we define a structure, where we reuse structures. But maybe we also look at our other tools. Maybe we look at the tools where we import information, but let's use JSON. That's a technology we can use for that. Okay, but last but not least, also the colleagues from research and standardization were asked, and for sure what they answer all the time is, please use standards. Do not invent the wheel again. Do not reuse, remodel everything you already had, but really, really use standards. Okay, but then our product manager has some questions. For example, standardization means overhead. So you're not free to do everything. You have limits in, for example, specifications, in rules, in things to follow. You have maybe also overhead to implement because of using standard, but you gain, and that was the answer from the standardization part, you gain on the one hand usability and you gain interoperability. And that means you do not have to redefine everything just for a second person who takes the information, but you have one thing where you exchange the information and where you reuse all the structures again. And for sure, then the question was, which standards are there? And I think we all know that AutomationML is not the only standard in the world, but there are a lot of other things also comparable. But in this engineering analysis domain, where you have a lot of structures, a lot of interlinking, a lot of how to say, networked interlinked components, AutomationML is for sure one representative. There are also others like OPCUA, like FMI. You could also use ontologies to build semantic networks or graph databases or something like that. But nevertheless, the question was, what can we use? And the answer, at least for this task, describing all the things, is that there is nothing which 100% fits. And that's at some point, at some point, the thing where people say, okay, then let's reinvent something else. And that was exactly the discussion we had internally, because we said, yeah, there is nothing which is really fitting. But nevertheless, if we use a standard and then adapt slightly, for example, things like in AutomationML roles, system unit classes to be used, or also attribute types which we use, it's for sure easy to adapt it. Even if something changes, even if in a later stage, for example, there is something which is dealing with process analysis, process optimization, the description of processes, or any other thing, even if now there is nothing completely fitting, but nevertheless, you have the basic structures in the standard. So you have the concept, for example, in AutomationML of row classes to define the semantic of elements you model. You have the possibility to define attribute types. You have the possibility to have like copy templates, the system unit classes for different structures. And all that is already there and usable. And this means that this was the point where we said, okay, we will just use AutomationML without founding any working group, without having a long standardization process for defining all the structures, but we just use the basic concepts, like, for example, the part 1 of the AutomationML specification, part 2 with the row classes. We just use them as it is, so that we do not have to agree with anybody on anything, but we use the format as just data exchange format like it is. Nothing more, nothing less. And from that point, we thought about, or our product manager together with the software architect thought about which models we should create, because we divided the information from one point, the configuration data, then as we are dealing with robot cells, the robot data, and also the analysis results. And the most important part, at least from my side, are these analysis results, because this is really where the value was created and where someone else can take the information and can get, on the one hand, possible scenarios, possible optimization things out of it. On the other hand, you have also the documentation of things you wanted to realize, and you have the possibility to reuse that in another tool, for example, or in some other workflow or even tool suite, or to interconnect things. And as I said, and we will only focus on the analysis results, we use AutomationML for that. And first thing we had is that we had to define, our software developer Ben had to define which semantics we have. So which parts do we need to define these results? What is in there? So that in the case there is another format, we have to transform it. We need some semantics where we can do a mapping, for example. That was the first thing. The second thing was to define the attribute types which are existing and happening more than one time, so that it's really worth to create an attribute type. And there also a lot of things are repeated. And last one was that we are in context of software development and we are using object-oriented software development tools. So we were also defining classes to have the possibility to map the code, the classes we're using inside our coding, to the classes we have in the model. And that's the part where, at least from my point of view, it's quite hard to have a common system unit class library, but this is really some tool specific part. For the role class libraries and attribute type libraries, I would assume that at some point in time in AutomationML, this is existing. Yeah. And when we right now look into the things we export and import, and this is where it's nice to have AutomationML. Maybe and also if you have worked with the AutomationML editor, you would also see how this has improved over the time, because we have more than 1 million lines in the XML. When we export from that specific cell the analysis results, we have the description of all the processes, all the tags, all the dependencies, the actors, the program call sequences, and also the points of interest, which are I would say, the heart of the analysis result, where you have the most important points for optimization. And for these ones, we have also the representation inside the AutomationML format. And for example, for Amadeus showed it, the cluing and picking operation of the robot 34 RB100. There we have the different parts which were highlighted in the tool. And we have the representation just inside AutomationML. And as you can see, we have a lot of attributes which are quite the same, where we created attribute types. And we have also assigned system unit classes at least. And in some cases also role classes where it makes sense. So this means that we did not, create AutomationML in its whole beauty, I would say. Like if you were using the standard parts, for example, if you are using an application recommendation, but we have at least a lot of things, a lot of concepts which we could just use, which every software engineer understands directly, and which you can just use without having the need for defining, I would say, yet another XML or JSON format, which is completely proprietary. So you are in between a standard representation and some proprietary thing, which is maybe a little bit memory efficient to be stored. If you want to do that, but nevertheless, you have the whole information there. You have the possibility to provide it to other tools, and as it is XML, you can also directly use it inside other tools. For example, for the analysis part or the visualization part, if you do not want to use the proprietary software tool. And that's really one point where at least in our little universe, in our little context, we were really happy, all of us, that AutomationML is just usable without having to tell that to anybody, without having to change anybody, without the necessity to invest a lot of effort before you can use it, but just as it is, with the standard, the standard documents defined in, for example, part 1 and part 2, without the necessity of being member of the AutomationML organization, but really just as it is there, and as you can use it directly. And that's really one thing which from time to time we forget when we are into standardization, that you do not have to put a lot of effort in interacting with all the other parties in the world who are also doing similar tasks, but that you can just use the things which are there and take your parts out of it and gain some value from it without having a lot of overhead, having a lot of different stories, and without being completely proprietary. And that's already the story we wanted to tell. And now we still have time if you have some questions. And we already want to thank you. And I stopped the recording so that you are able to ask questions and to interact with us.